Trump. But if he loses, well, that was the expected outcome anyways.
It also is a perfect fit because they're both, self-made businessmen. Both of them are self-made businessmen Trump, who inherited it from their fathers. They both probably hate their fathers as well, so they have a nice conversation about that. They both have triple locations where they live, including New York City. They both pay taxes in a different place and they actually do live. And, they both have a lot of things in common that I think they can get along.
Doesn't everyone hate their father? Pretty sure my kids do. Father's Day's coming up. I've always noted, not that my kids are great gift givers, not to mom and dad, but a little early Father's Day grievance this year. You could give me something, right? Something more than a happy Father's Day. That's all I'm saying. Something. How about a card? I take a card.
Give me a donut.
I take a donut with a little candle on top. Then it feels special.
You know what? Next to candle, that's fine. Give me a second donut.
So
one that looks like a candle.
So, anyways, I hope Rebecca's not, nursing away the pain of her butt hurt with a bunch of donuts back at the house. It's got to be, a tough thing. I bet she gets up by her gumption and grabs her bootstraps and, goes back out on the campaign trail. Because when you start the week up by 51 and you don't get the endorsement of the former president, that's going to sting a little. And it's got to, motivate you to get out there and do a little more. Try a little harder. Be better. Be best.
She could be best. I mean, it is something when you run as a strong, independent woman that hitches her coattails to Walker and Trump. That's what a strong person does. But whatever, it's fine.
They're probably the more important political headline of the day, because not everyone lives in our backyard here in the state of Wisconsin. This is not a grievance. This is more of a little gleeful celebration. Not a big one, but a little one. Peter Navarro, the financial advisor, the economic advisor to the former President Trump, got indicted today. 2 counts, 2 misdemeanor counts, but each carries a maximum penalty of 1 year in jail. And the 2 counts, misdemeanor counts, no doubt, contempt of Congress.
Oh, so they do have teeth.
He was indicted by the Department of Justice effectively for failing to respond to the January 6th committee hearing.
It is possible since the Clinton administration. That's amazing.
It is kind of amazing. A federal grand jury has indicted Peter Navarro, a former Trump White House advisor, on 2 counts of criminal contempt of Congress for defying subpoenas from the House J6 Select Committee. The 2 misdemeanor counts stem from his failure to comply with demands for documents and testimony in the panel's investigation. Now, Navarro was indicted on Thursday, and the indictment was unsealed on Friday. I've never been indicted. Charged, never indicted.
Haven't had the pleasure myself.
The former trade advisor made his initial court appearance. That's the booking session Friday afternoon, during which he insisted on representing himself. Boy, those Trumpsters are smart. And railed against the federal prosecutors, the FBI, and the Select Committee. Better to just remain silent and say not guilty, right? Navarro in court accused the Justice Department of prosecutorial misconduct for arresting him at an airport on his way to Nashville for a television appearance. He also guess you're not going to make it to Nashville today, Peter. Not till late. Maybe catch a later flight. Hope Southwest is flying. He also argued the committee's lack of authority to subpoena him. That committee is a sham committee that doesn't have the power to issue subpoenas. They basically weaponize their investigatory powers in a way that violates separation of powers. The House voted to hold Navarro in contempt in April, referred him to the Justice Department for criminal charges. Of the 4 former Trump officials to be referred by the House, Navarro is only the second to face charges. If convicted, he faces the possibility of up to a year in jail and a $100,000 fine on each count. Now, what's the George Michael for? I'm not father figure.
Oh, this is Trump being to Michael's father figure since, take him under his wing. You know, I'm endorsing you, that type of thing.
But Trump has two sons and he doesn't even like them.
I know. That's why Tim Michels fits so perfectly with Donald Trump.
Come back with us. Fancy Brian. He'll be all our father figures. I'll be your role model. Devil's Advocates, Friday grievances. Light them up. 844-967-2789.
It's just me and Fancy here right now.
She would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
I'm not going to be ignored.
I am not a role model.
Hey, I'm Haley Kiyoko, and I know what it's like to struggle with mental health issues. If you have a friend that's going through a tough time, now is the perfect moment to reach out. Learn how to start the conversation at seizetheawkward.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The radio show your mother warned you about.
Actual tyranny of a dictator. Dictator's going to dictate Putin. And what did Trump do? Trump kneeled to the man, embarrassing Republicans. And you're still with the guy. This is your front runner in 2024. Are you even smoking some of Mike Lindell's crack? What are you thinking?
They're the GCCCP. We are the Devil's Advocates.
Live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
Hey, I'm Haley Kiyoko, and I know what it's like to struggle with mental health issues. If you have a friend that's going through a tough time, now is the perfect moment to reach out. Learn how to start the conversation at seizetheawkward.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We made it. It's Friday. And this Friday is kind of special. I'm here in the Shaw Studios, 217 West, just Wisconsin Avenue. I guess I don't have to throw a West on there. Downtown Waukesha, baby. And they closed down the downtown here in Waukesha. Like 4 blocks from here is the 5 Points. And the band start playing, and we're doing a very special show that we're rolling out tonight.
We're going to be live at Friday Night Live.
I know, man. And I'm not the only one that's ever going to host this show. I'm going to host this week's program, but certainly this will not be the only opportunity. So, look for some of our special friends and many of the hosts. Hell, Fancy Brian, you might go out there once or twice this summer.
Yeah, there's a couple times I'll probably host. Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, please make a note, especially those listening in Waukesha.
Truth.
I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go to the farmers market, and we're going to start broadcasting from the Waukesha farmers market each Saturday morning. And I'll be up at 6:30 setting up tomorrow morning. Fancy Brian.
It's legal under union rules because it's technically 12 hours between being on the air and off the air.
Huh?
Well, you're done at 8:00. And then you're on at 8:00.
Well, I won't be on at all. I'm just there for setup.
Okay. Well,
I'm just a cheap labor, man.
Great. You'll be in the other union, so it'll be covered. So you can work straight through if you need to.
Well, Don Brown, our good friend, former Waukesha Alder, Don Brown does the This Week in Waukesha show, and Don's going to start at a new time for the summer at least. He's going to broadcast live from the farmers market. I'll be there to keep the adoring throngs away from Don. This Week in Waukesha at 8:00. And also, kind of old school radio, man. We're going to give away some freaking radios, right? We're in the radio business. So come on down, and all you got to do is give me your name and a way to contact you should you be the winner. But at the end of the day, I want to pick a winner. I'm going to give them a free radio, and it sounds pretty good. They're cool. They got a Bluetooth and a couple other features.
And they're pretty neat, pretty nifty. It's both neat and nifty.
They're
pretty nifty.
Compact old school radios, and they are pretty nifty. And now we're going to give one away tonight at the Friday Night Live, or at least I'll, close my eyes, pick one at random. And then also tomorrow, we will give one away at the farmer's market, and we'll try to make a custom of giving away radios so you can listen to us on the radio. If you'd like to be a winner, come see me tonight at the Friday Night Live. I have no idea what this show is going to sound like, but it'll be, at least close to great.
Mostly great.
Maybe not the greatest radio show ever.
You need to have room to keep getting better every single week. That's the important.
We'll leave just a little room for improvement, but just a skosh.
A little bit on the table.
Hey, real quick, talking about the Peter Navarro. The sad news, the former Trumpster got indicted today. The judge gave him some good advice. It's always good advice when the judge gives you advice in open court. When you're receiving advice from the judge in court, please take that advice. But at Friday's court appearance, again, of Peter Navarro, Judge Zia Faruqua expressed concern about allowing Navarro to represent himself. I think it's important that you have counsel, the judge told him. I mean, when the judge is saying, hey, buddy, I've been listening to you, why don't you get a lawyer?
Why don't you just take a little seat there, buddy? Just take a minute.
Now, Navarro said he was okay with the judge appointing counsel for today, and that he sent prosecutors an email with an attorney contact as they work this out. Navarro, who has a PhD in economics, is not an attorney. So the Dr. Navarro, the PhD in economics, is representing himself. But wasn't it just yesterday or the day before that he rolled out a federal lawsuit trying to sue to block the January 6th committee from actually bringing forth the Green Bay sweep? We've talked about the Green Bay sweep. Peter Navarro is the author of the Green Bay sweep. And, this guy went back on Ari Melber, I believe, last night on MSNBC. Will this man never learn his lesson?
No.
Peter Navarro literally went and effectively, confessed to plotting a coup in the United States. And he did so.
Theoretically, of course.
Not even on Fox News. He did so on MSNBC on Ari Melber. And Ari's a lawyer in his own regard. Pretty smart guy. Also, quite quick with the rap lyrics. But when the judge says, go get a lawyer, you are an economist. You are not a lawyer. Why don't you get a lawyer? I would take that advice.
You're not like Maggie Dawn, who is both an economist and a lawyer.
Now, the arraignment should be postponed for a number of reasons. Navarro added, requesting that his civil lawsuit against the House January 6th committee go forward before any criminal proceedings. Yeah, get to the civil matter before you hold me in criminal contempt, even though I was subpoenaed months ago. And I filed that lawsuit like yesterday when I heard I might get indicted.
I always felt as a defendant, it was my right to go and tell the court how they should try me.
By the way, Fancy Brand, the court handling the civil case has already dinged Navarro for procedural flaws on how he structured the lawsuit, in that he's an economist, not a lawyer. Although I hear in his spare time, he plots coups and occasionally makes media appearances on MSNBC. Let me open it's always an open-ended invitation here. Peter, call us 844-967-2789. If you want to confess to a coup or tell us, why your lawsuit makes any sort of sense whatsoever and why you don't need counsel. I don't think you need counsel. Peter, you're a sharp guy. I'd go it alone, man. That's the American way. Trump would be very sad if you got counsel. I think so. Do the right thing. And by the right thing, I mean, do the wrong thing. Don't listen to the judge.
Otherwise, Trump might have to hire another lawyer that he wouldn't have to pay.
Many years ago, as a minor, I was legally a ward of the state of Wisconsin. And I would have to go appear before a judge every 6 months. And just, wasn't that I did anything terribly wrong, But what if your whole life came under scrutiny by a judge and you're staring at my judge was Judge Maria Kruger. And until I turned 18, man, I had to do it every 6 months. And I'm not saying I was a bad kid, but, I was a baddish kid trying not to get caught. And I think I kind of know how Peter Navarro felt. Only I had the good sense to let the attorney do the talking. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. Jim Santelle, fine attorney, will do the talking after 5.
Why don't you stop talking for a while? Maybe sit the next couple plays out.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Hi, I'm a pleasant voice reminding you to enable Devil Radio before playing Devil Radio. First, you have to enable Devil Radio, which should be natural to Wisconsinites. Just say, Alexa, enable Devil Radio. Then firmly and confidently say, Alexa, play Devil Radio. This should conjure the Devil Radio app, available at the App Store.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished lower. The Dow down 348 points. Employers keep hiring, boosting an economy under pressure from rising inflation and rising interest rates. Here's the AP Sagar Magani.
The economy added 390,000 jobs over the month. The unemployment rate stayed low at 3.6%.
Though the gain was the smallest in a year, Gus Fauché at PNC Financial Services Group says the labor market looks to be in excellent shape as businesses remain desperate to hire. President Biden says it's more proof his economic policies are working, but he says Americans remain anxious amid decades-high inflation.
There's no denying that high prices, particularly around gasoline and food, are a real problem for people.
And there are fears the economy will weaken as the Federal Reserve keeps raising interest rates to fight inflation. Sagar Magani, Washington.
I'm Ed Donahue.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. In speaking with reporters this week, Jay Rothman, the newly appointed president of the University of Wisconsin System, said he plans to recommend continuing the in-state tuition freeze for all UW System undergraduates when he presents his annual budget to the UW Board of Regents next week. The Republican legislature returned the ability to remove the tuition freeze back to the Board of Regents for the first time in a decade in the latest state budget, and Rothman indicated the freeze will be able to continue due to $25 million of federal pandemic relief allocated to the UW System by the Evers administration. The Milwaukee Brewers rallied for 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning last night to beat the San Diego Padres 5-4. Jace Peterson cleared the bases with a triple to tie the game, and Andrew McCutchen sent Peterson home on a walk-off single to seal the victory. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition. We air the grievances. That's the custom around here. Dial us up, 844-967-2789. The very first one today is Wisco Paul. Welcome, Wisco. What do you got for us?
That first my grievance is Gableman. It's crazy, man. It's corruption at its finest. Hey, but I got a question for you. When January 6th committee, when they come down with their findings or however they go about this, but let's say Trump and his minions are found guilty on different accounts.
Guilty.
Do you think, Crute, that this will finally have an effect on Trump and like his endorsements and this guy, running around? I don't know how he can do what he's doing right now, but do you think that will finally have an effect, or will the Trumpsters just keep going on and not believe it? That's my question.
Define the power of the Trump endorsement, because of late, and I have no idea how he'll do back in Tim Michels here in the state of Wisconsin. I think that will shake up the race here because Michels was so far back, and to be able to run the ads with Trump, giving you the stamp of approval, well, that's a way to differentiate in a primary. But, down in Georgia where Trump waded in the Brian Kemp gubernatorial race, put all his chips on David Perdue. Well, his guy got beat by 3-1, got beat by 50 points. And if you get beat by 50 points, well, you go off and you lick your wounds, you go hide behind the woodshed. But that's not what Trump's doing. Trump is basically saying it was rigged. My endorsements have power. And, to see me lose 3-1, that's implausible. So now he's starting to attack the machinations of a Republican primary. And let's not forget, he's done the same thing in Pennsylvania, right? Dr. Oz is in the midst of a recount. Dr. Oz is only up on the hedge fund guy. I think McCormick is his name, only up by like 1,000 votes. And Trump said, just declare victory, just declare you're the presumptive nominee, which is what Oz has done. So, yes, Trump is waiting in these primary races, but what I think he's doing is he's effectively wrecking the chances of these respective candidates to actually win a general election, Paul. More like that. I say more Trump, not less Trump. I lost you, Paul. Have a great weekend, man. Hope he has a spotted cow or something.
I think he will.
Paul, if I see you at the Friday Night Live, man, I'd buy you a beer.
If not, he's going to have a moon man. One of the two.
844-967-2789. And I wonder what aspect of Gableman's got, Paul's undies in a bundle. Is it the $11,000 a month? Because now he's down to $5,500. But of course, since the investigation's on pause, he's not really doing anything for the $5,500. But if you believe the judge, he never really was doing any sort of investigating for the $11,000 a month. And then, of course, you find out they're $220,000 over budget and counting before the litigation hits the wall. So, I'm not clear which of the many corruptions of Gableman so bother you, Paul.
It could be that his furniture is still sitting there. His furniture is just still sitting
That's
there.
the taxpayers' furniture.
Well, I mean, look, as a guy who's 300 plus pounds myself, a lot of furniture is really weighted in as 250, maybe just under 300. So if it's weighted for over 300 pounds, like I'm assuming Michael Gableman would want,
you think you got the big guy furniture? Like you got the very nice chair.
I like
that's
it.
a step up chair.
You need something a little bit more structure. And so if he might be pining for his furniture. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the issue.
That could be.
Nobody's ever thought
that would certainly explain the whopping blowing through the budget, because that was the only thing they acted like mattered. Of course, it's a partisan investigation. It was just Voss trying to keep Trump off his ass, but at least they were going to stay on budget or not. 844-967-2789. Next up with the grievance, perhaps. Hey, Jess from Milwaukee. Hello. How you doing, man?
Yeah, hi. How you doing?
Good, Jess. You're on the radio, man. What's your thought or grievance?
I was just wondering how long you guys were on the radio, because I'm a new listener. and kind of the Democratic Party is kind of losing me a little bit, man. And so I wanted to like get revitalized, you know, so I put on you guys' show and listen to your radio, and I gotta be honest, man, you know, every time I put it on, you guys just seem to be complaining about Trump all the time, you know, and even the soundbite that you're running, I think they call it bumper music or something. Like when you go to a radio, like a commercial break, you're running this soundbite from a year and a half ago. And it seems that my recollection of you guys like talking about Trump and Russia collusion back when he beat Hillary, like that went on for like over 3 years that I couldn't put on the TV news without hearing.
We want to find the collusion.
So, Jess, you've known us since at least the Russian collusion as a topic. So you're not real new. Perhaps you dip your toe in the pool occasionally. I can tell you what, Joe Biden has been speaking a lot lately about gun control issues. Do you support our president in his stance? Should I be playing more of Joe Biden saying effectively we must pass legislation now to take guns, to end assault weapons, to offer background checks? Would that be motivating to you, Jess, on behalf of the Democratic Party? Although I don't work for Joe or the Dems, but no, just for point of clarity, would that be motivating, Jess? Is that the sort of stuff you want to hear around here?
Well, I think there's more than just two subjects. Like I brought up Trump and you brought up guns, but because they're asking about guns, like for instance, you talked about the background checks, and they already tried to do those, bro, because we tried to get one and they said, no way, you can't have one because of.
Are you talking about your personal circumstance? Just so I'm clear, Jess?
No, it was a friend, but see, they do background checks and he couldn't get a gun, bro. He couldn't get one because they didn't let him. So
Some
there
people
are background checks, bro.
Well, some people shouldn't have guns, Jess.
Right. And I honestly, like, I heard you guys talking the other day about like people being older than 18. And
yes, we have had that conversation recently.
Right. But see, now I'm trying to have an open mind about this, and to me, I agree, like with what you were saying on that, and I don't think a kid who's 18 is mature enough to do that, bro. And I think they should probably have to wait till they're 21.
Well, Jess, what I'm hearing, and you and I agreed on that topic, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, we agree. We agree on that, bro. There shouldn't be no 18-year-old, so I'm cool with that. But having a AR or whatever these fancy guns are called, like it ain't the people who own those guns that are going around and shooting them. People are using handguns, and it's people in gangs and stuff like that. It ain't the guy in the suburb who wants to protect his family or something like that who's running around with ARs. Like, it's always a handgun, and it's always like some kid or somebody who's mentally disabled. So
no, that's not really true, Jess. That's often how it's characterized by right-wing media, and it's often characterized by Republicans. I would say it's easy to say anyone that would cause carnage with a gun, oh, they must be crazy. Who in their right mind would do that, right, Jess? And so it's easy to cast that. And perhaps there's something to be said about the mental stability of anyone that would find themselves in a position they would want to kill another. But there's also some studies about, the cortex, the cerebral cortex of young men especially, and they make impulsive and bad decisions. And that's why we discourage drinking under the age of 21. And I think it would be reasonable to discourage gun ownership under the age of 21. And for a guy who's just a new listener, it seems like he's heard quite a bit from us. And topically, I got to tell you, Jess, sometimes we followed the topics of the day. And Donald Trump dominated the headlines for so many years, no doubt. And whenever possible, I'd like to lift up the Dems and help inspire you and other listeners, although clearly I don't perceive my job to lift up the Democratic Party. I perceive my job as to tell the truth whenever possible, as I see it. My truth, but still the truth. Fancy, I know you had something.
I cringe at this mental health issue, because a lot of times by calling it a mental health issue or by chalking it up to mental health, you get to other that person, and you get to subtract that person from the greater society. The point is that this person, whether they were having issues mentally or not, is a product of the society that they lived in, whether they were actively a part or not. And so by calling it a mental health issue, you separate it and make it seem like this was one person,
like it's a one-off
that has nothing to do with
nothing
us,
to do with normal
even though
society.
The person, especially if you look at the Uvalde situation, more things that come out about that community and how the dynamics of the community, that was clearly a product of the community itself and the pressures, the societal pressures and everything like that. And when you put it up to just mental health, you make it easier to other that person and separate it from the bigger picture involved.
I think he just raised a couple topics. You talk about domestic violence. And I think domestic violence is significantly different than domestic terrorism, let's say.
For sure. It's responsible
I think
for
what
60%.
Happened, what happened in Buffalo, mass shootings, that's terrorism. That's someone trying to go down in the history books. That's someone trying to make a point. And effectively, it's probably a suicide in almost every case. Someone doesn't just want to die. They want to take a bunch of others with them. Well, that's a different motivation than this newest. And I guess it doesn't qualify as a mass shooting because we've only got 2 dead and a shooter. So only 3 people dead. But what this outside the church in Iowa. And of course, and I don't say that with any glee, but it was the ex-boyfriend, and he came back and he shot his former partner. And I think so often that is the case. And I think the fear of weapons of all sorts, and it's not just AR-15s, people kill themselves with handguns, but it leads an impulsive thought into your final thought, if you know what I'm saying. Be it shooting at someone, be it shooting yourself. So it's not that there's not a place in society for weapons. And I'd be willing to have that argument. And I have been moved on that topic. I've tried to be open-minded on that one, Jess. My buddy Dominic's got his concealed carry. I mean, once upon a time, we went round and round on that. You're not safe. I've seen him on the range. He's barely safe. Yet he has the legal right to carry, under his armpit or whatever the case may be. Hide it, just conceal it, if you will. And I don't personally want to live in a society full of people with guns in their back pocket. But legally, I have been convinced you do have the right to do that. You do have the right to leave your domicile with a gun. I just choose not to do that. I got friends like Fancy Brian. He'll squish your ass. I hope, Fancy, if I need some squishing going on later, you're my guy.
I got a follow-up thought on that when we come back if you want.
Well, let's come back to more Devil's Advocates. We'll come back.
This aggression will not stand, man. You said it, man.
19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Feeling increasingly lonely right now? You're not alone.
Try joining a virtual book club or scheduling an online coffee break with coworkers to connect.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Matt from Mount World. Welcome, Matt. What do you got for us?
I don't get these people, man. All these teachers are groomers and pedophiles. We need them armed to the teeth. It's the only way.
Right.
I mean, is your name Jeffrey Lebowski? Because your mind is limber.
Oh,
appreciate you listening.
That's a great point, though. Yes, the teachers, they're the ones doing the indoctrination, right? The teachers are the ones that are woke. Give them guns.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice Hard Seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice Hard Seltzer.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Ad Council.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition, taking new callers, old callers, first time and many time callers at 844-967-2789. Our custom airing the grievances. Fancy, I thought you had one.
Yeah, and I don't want to wade too far into the gun thing. I think we've done that plenty of times this week.
I think we've talked guns.
But I had a thought today, and I was a bouncer in Chicago. I worked in bars and things like that. I actually literally bought crack in the middle of the night in uptown Chicago just to see if I could do it. And I didn't feel the fear that I sometimes do when I think about it. I work in Lefty Talk Radio. We're at a time where people of the righty persuasion generally have shoot 'em outs with people that they don't necessarily agree with. And there's a possibility. I had thought about it earlier when we first started, but it has actually become a thought that it may actually, come my way sometime. And I've not felt as much fear as I did when I was buying crack on the street of Chicago. Do you know what I mean? Like I felt properly fearful at the time.
How much of that crack are you smoking right now, man?
None, but my point is
losing me in the analogy. But go ahead.
My point is that I think sometimes that I am in more danger from someone randomly now than I did when I was buying crack on the street of Chicago. That's what I'm saying. There are times when I think about it and I go, is there more danger now with talking about things that other people don't like? I don't know, but that's a possibility.
Well, I don't have an analogous crack buying night in Chicago, or anywhere else. Crack, not my first choice. More of a weed guy, but
it was an experiment.
Yeah, sure. Sure it was. That's how it all, first one's free and that's how they hook you. But I understand your point of view, or at least I think I do. 844-967-2789. We will take your grievances. I hate because, I'm sitting here in front of a glass window. I've thought someone's going to throw a brick through the window someday. I've thought that, and sometimes I think maybe I would have earned it, on a few random days.
The idea is that you try to at least earn the
stir the pot. Sure. Throw a brick through the window. Well, it'd be vandalism and whatever, but it would be an act of some sort of righty defiance. But I got to be honest with you, Fancy Brian. I just truly believe in my heart of hearts. I'm out here living my life on the radio. I am. I mean, about my kids. If you listen, with enough frequency. If you're like our pal in Milwaukee, Jess, and Jess, for a first time listener, knew a hell of a lot about us. But here's my only point. If you listen every day, you know everything short of my social security number. Because part of doing 3 hours every day is I'm living my life on the radio. I'm telling my story because so often we try to go and give you our perspective on whatever the news of the day might be. And I got to tell you, I've gone to some Trump rallies, a lot of them. And I've questioned Trump people. I've gone, I told you about the night I went to Des Moines, the F. Joe Biden night, the Let's Go Brandon night. I never feel fear of these righties or conservatives or Republicans. Another human being, if I have the chance to talk to you, I'll take my chances.
In that circumstance, I can totally see that. Like that's what I'm saying is that it's not the one-on-one that scares me. It's the unknown person who has not met us one-on-one.
Well, to know us is to love us, Fancy Brian. 844-967-2789. You should all know us. But my point of view is this. The random stuff that could take us out in life. I mean, I didn't want to drop my kids off after the last school shooting. I paused. I told them I loved them on the curbside, and teenagers, they don't care. But I had to say it. I had to express it because the thought crossed my mind, what if something crazy happened? It's the last time I saw my kids. It's always good to tell your kids you love them every opportunity you get. But I made sure that morning because it was important to me. And that makes me fearful. The randomness of a school shooting. Yeah, that makes me fearful. But I really don't worry about the average conservative. I mean, if I was their ex-wife, I'd worry about some of the people that might be listening to our shows. I know certainly if you do the math, somewhere out there, there's a domestic abuser or whatever the case may be, because society has enough of them. The real fear is women from their partners. That's who should be fearful. Statistically, mathematically, fearful of the guns. Well, it's the man scorned. That's the real cause of many of the deaths. And that's the part that would be very scary to me is if I had some possessive ex that, I just couldn't move on or whatever the case may be. That is how people end up in real danger in life. But I got to tell you, man, if it's just an argument or even, a fair fight, I'll take my chances. I will in life. I'd take my chances arguing my way out of damn near any fight. And, I'm big enough. I'll take my chances.
And don't get me wrong. I don't live my life in fear. That's not what I'm saying. I don't like.
You look scared right now.
My point is I haven't considered being fearful or being in fear as much as I did back then. Maybe it's a thing of being older and having a kid. And that at that time I was just a single idiot. But my point is that,
buddy, big guys like you and I, we got, and I'm not wishing harm on either of us, but we got a greater chance of having a heart attack and dying someday, walking up a large flight of stairs than somebody shooting us at random.
My own worst enemy.
The victims of most murders and gun violence are known to their assailants. Absolutely. They're not strangers. So don't be a jerk in life. If I'm going to die of gun violence, it's going to be Mrs. Crute. It's going to take my ass out for being a jerk.
You don't have to try so hard.
What, to be a jerk or not to get shot?
I don't know what I'm arguing for against now. I'm just going to leave it there.
Let's take Lynn quickly from the car before the hour rolls. Lynn, welcome. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm on my way to Waukesha from Madison to see you guys tonight. But I am tired of seeing the dead deer and carcasses along the way, along I-94 in various states of decay. I have counted 12 between Madison, here's another one that's really disgusting, and Johnson Creek. So,
Lynn, why did Scott Walker, under the Walker administration, we got a budget crisis, Act 10, and we're going to stop cleaning up the bloated carcasses from the side of the roads. Why did we hoist that back on the counties?
Well, that's a good question. anyway, yeah, state budget isn't big enough to handle that.
You know, we're running surpluses, Lynn. They should pick up the poor Bambis on the side of the road. Fancy Brian, I had a big doe and a fawn run right past me in my front yard in Milton the other day. I was a little startled. I was on the phone. I was actually trying to pay a bill. Do you want to hear my social security number? I told you if you stuck around long enough. More devils. Hour 2, the happy hour, is next.
The biggest fear that I think a lot of our supporters have is the outside money.
I can taste it.
Listen to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for progressive news talk radio. Tune in for the political party that is the Devil's Advocates radio show every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Join Native Roots Radio from 6 to 7 p.m. for updates about Native news, culture, and activism. The 7 o'clock hour is for local programming, including the Paul Revere Show on Mondays, Busted Pencils on Tuesdays, and the Up North podcast on Wednesdays.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
News. I'm Ed Donahue. Job growth remains solid despite inflation and rising interest rates. The Labor Department says 390,000 jobs were added last month. President Biden called the numbers robust. As far as inflation is concerned,
families who are struggling probably don't care why the prices are up. They just want them to go down. Joe, what are you going to do to bring them down? But it's important that we understand the root of the problem so we can take steps to solve it.
The AP's Joshua Boak reports the president's jobs message was overshadowed by inflation.
That tells you that voters' minds right now are more on prices at the pump rather than how many people are getting hired.
Stocks finished lower. The Dow down 348 points. The top economist at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization says the cereal price index hit an all-time high in May.
This is mostly because of wheat prices, because there is a decline on coarse grain prices. And also rice prices rose for the 5th consecutive month.
Maximo Torino says it's in part because of the war in Ukraine. Police in San Antonio, Texas say police officers shot and killed a 13-year-old suspected of stealing a car and ramming it into a marked patrol car. The CDC says genetic analysis of recent monkeypox cases suggests there are 2 distinct strains in the U.S. Officials are considering the possibility the virus has been circulating undetected for some time. A state senator representing Uvalde, Texas, tells the AP the state agency investigating the mass shooting at an elementary school there determined the commander facing criticism for slow police response was not carrying a radio as the shooting unfolded. Former Trump White House trade advisor Peter Navarro was indicted on contempt charges after defying a subpoena from the House committee investigating the Capitol riot. Navarro says the committee is a sham committee and prosecutors are playing hardball and are despicable. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at darnwi.com.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Devil Radio has been kicking ass, earning every listener, and providing our sponsors return on investment 3 years now on the Madison airwaves. And there has never been a better time than right now to advertise with us and join the Devil Radio community. Our audience is loyal and growing every day. Active listeners that don't flip. Wonder if your ad dollars are working? Devil Radio listeners will tell you it works. Ad production is included. Devil Radio will make it easy for you to start seeing return on your investment. Call today. Summer is now, and it's not too late to make your backyard an oasis. Go Landscaping can create a sanctuary from the world right in your backyard. Stone fireplaces, stone patio, outdoor kitchens, stone is their passion. Hardworking and professional, call Cody. Their dry stone certified mason will help you design and realize your dream this summer. Call Gold Landscaping today at 608-807-9245. Stop dreaming and go love your yard.
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Sam Butson with your headlines. At their meeting last night, the Kiel School Board closed their Title IX investigation it had opened into 3 students' refusal to use the correct pronouns for another district student after national media attention to the investigation led to numerous bomb threats to public schools, roads, businesses, and government buildings throughout the city of Kiel in eastern Wisconsin. The 3 8th-grade boys subject to the investigation were represented by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, who took the case public to national right-wing media outlets last month that led to local, state, and federal authorities investigating more than 5 bomb threats made over the past week and a half against the city of less than 4,000 people. Sunshine in the forecast today with winds from 10 to 20 miles per hour and a high of 72 degrees. Mainly clear skies expected this evening with a slight chance of rain and an overnight low of 50 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty, there is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. The happy hour is upon us. I am broadcasting from the Shaw right here with Fancy Brian, and we are going to launch an inaugural Friday Night Live at 6 p.m. The 5 Points right here in beautiful Waukesha, Wisconsin. They close down the downtown. They bring in the live bands, and they're bringing in 5:40 a.m. in the Shaw 101 FM. We're going to broadcast, and I'm going to throw in a little variety. I don't know what I'm going to talk about tonight, but if you want to come down, I'm going to give away a couple of free radios. To be at the farmers market tomorrow morning in Waukesha, and this kind of kicks off the Summer of Love 2.0 boosted boogaloo. You know, we're doing it Shaw style. So looking forward to that. There is some breaking news. Peter Navarro was indicted earlier today, and now he's got another grievance. He missed his appearance on the Mike Huckabee show.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'd be torqued too.
And that's important.
Speaking to the press in the wake of the Department of Justice charging him with contempt of Congress, former Trump advisor Peter Navarro warned Trump voters that they're not coming for me and Trump. They're coming for you. Sounds kind of ominous, doesn't it?
Wow.
They're coming for you.
I was told they're coming for our hamburgers.
It's interesting to me as I'm reading the Peter Navarro article. The Digital is trying to pump me, buy some Green Bay Packer tickets, perhaps in association with the Green Bay Packer sweep. I think they've, sort of mischaracterized my interest with this article. A little bit more here. Navarro went to lament what he sees as the undue punishment of the citizens of this country and the disregard for the Constitution. He also apparently is upset at the disregard for public appearances. Yeah, man, if I got arrested going from here to, the Friday Night Live, I'd be torqued. Anyways, I was on my way to Nashville today to do a TV appearance with Mike Huckabee's show. And instead of coming to my door where I live, instead of calling me and saying, hey, we need you to come down to the court, we got a warrant for you, I would have gladly come. What'd they do? They intercepted me getting in the plane.
No, except they did invite you. They subpoenaed you to show up, and you said no. So they came at a time of their convenience, you see, when it
once you refuse to honor the subpoena, you have less say over the means of delivery.
Just throwing it out there. I figured I thought that's how the law worked. That's my understanding of it. I'm no lawyer.
Well, as the article points out, Navarro was charged with refusal to appear for a deposition for refusing to supply documents to the House Select Committee investigating the attack of hundreds of Trump supporters seeking to block the congressional certification of Joe Biden as the 2020 election winner. And the committee, which is examining whether Trump top aides and other senior Republicans instigated or directed the attack, believes Navarro could have information pertinent to the probe. Pertinent, I tell you. Yeah, like the Green Bay sweep he's been talking about on MSNBC. The committee said it had information showing that Navarro worked with former Trump political advisor Steve Bannon to delay Congress's certification of and ultimately change the outcome of the November 20 presidential. Yeah, that's what you're going to be charged with soon. They want to talk to you about it. No wonder he doesn't want to appear. I don't want to go confess. Because he, of course, is guilty of greater crimes. And the fact that his greatest concern today is missing an appearance on Mike Huckabee's show. I mean, really? Mike Huckabee's show?
If Dylan Roof can get Burger King, why can't he stop for Mike Huckabee just to make an appearance? Just a couple minutes.
He could have phoned it in, Zoomed it. I'm sure they have Wi-Fi down at the, federal courthouse where they arranged you earlier today. So apparently, Peter,
zoom in on your phone, man.
Poor Peter. They handcuffed him.
Oh yeah, you have to get the officer to hold the camera for you during the if you were cuffed. Yeah.
I didn't realize they went so far as to handcuff him.
That's a shame.
As a man who's been publicly handcuffed, it's a little humiliating. Now I didn't have the real handcuffs. I had the fascist zip ties of the former Walker administration. My crime, singing. His crime, apparently contempt of Congress. A little bit more about the Peter Navarro kind of having a bad day. He had a bad day. Former Trump White House aide Peter Navarro was reportedly outraged about being arrested at the airport Friday instead of at his home. We talked about that part. Navarro, who has repeatedly promoted Donald Trump's big lie that the election was stolen, is the architect of the Green Bay sweep. You besmirched Vince Lombardi just calling it that. A plan to overturn the 2020 presidential was indicted by a federal grand jury on contempt of Congress charges. But as CNN's Paul Reed notes, not only was Navarro indicted, he's been arrested and remains in custody. This is unusual for a contempt case. So subsequently, he must have been released, I suspect. Civil liberties and national security journalist Marcy Wheeler adds Navarro complained to the judge he had been handcuffed and put in a jail cell. Well, that's what they do to contemptuous bastards like you.
Haven't they been saying lock her up or lock him up or lock? So wouldn't that apply to the same people if other people have committed crimes? Just throwing it out there.
Well, I don't know if you know Fancy Brian, but he was literally served by the FBI last week at the house.
But if only they had invited him then nicely, he would have done it.
Well, he didn't respond to that subpoena, and that's why he was indicted.
Huh.
So anyways, a little bit more from this. Navarro, I actually live right next to the FBI, literally right next to the FBI. What did they do? They let me go all the way to the airport, board the play. I guess he meant plane. Come at me, put me in handcuffs. Don't tase me, bro.
Hey, man, when the warrant comes down, the warrant comes down. That's when they go after you.
Put me in a jail cell. I was more than willing to find modus vivendi. I don't know what modus vivendi means. I'll have to ask the legal expert, James Santelle.
I would say, I think it's probably something like coming in your own free will.
Oh, I thought perhaps it was a cheap rat.
Probably that too.
Would you like a carafe of the modus vivendi?
I could say sum puella non pulchra, but then that would mean I'm not a pretty girl.
Navarro has been representing himself, Reed added, and has been publicly complaining about the FBI's loud service of a subpoena at his home last week. So last week, the subpoena that he again failed to respond to at the house where he lives next to the FBI. And then this week, an indictment as he's getting on the plane, and a lot of whining and moaning and bitching because they put him in handcuffs in a jail cell. And said, why didn't you bring it to the house? Well, last week you were torqued off. They brought it to the house.
Stop hitting yourself, bro.
Prosecutors initially asked Navarro's indictment to be under seal, citing the possibility he could flee or tamper with witnesses or evidence. Flee to Tennessee? If I was going to flee, I wouldn't go to Tennessee. I might flee from Tennessee. I've been there.
Lots of people get lost there.
It's a lovely place. The people less so.
It's a gateway to the backwoods of Kentucky.
Kind of. While last week Navarro was angered, the FBI served him a subpoena at his home. Friday, he was angered. He was arrested at the airport and reportedly specifically complained to the judge that he was arrested at the door of an airplane. Navarro is on a lengthy rant about his treatment by the FBI, according to the National Law Review. I was a distinguished public servant for 4 years. I'm not so sure.
Distinguished
public servant. I'll give you public servant. Even that, I'm going to air quote public servant.
You were in the public.
No one ever complained about my ethics. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We complained specifically about you, Peter Navarro, your ethics.
I believe there have been official complaints about his ethics.
And the Green Bay sweep. And, maybe they got him at the airport because they feared he was fleeing, although, Tennessee, not a jumping off point to many places. Anyways, Rocky Top, 844-967-2789. It's Friday. We air the grievances. I got a legal eagle joining me here in the Shaw studio soon. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. But in the meantime, your legal opinions, your rampant speculation, your stoner visions, they're all welcome here. Lightly screened by our pal Evan at 844-967-2789. Our pal Mark from the Sack, probably soberish. Welcome, Mark. I tease because it's Friday.
Yeah, I wish I'm still abstaining, keeping an eye on my liver, but it's just disgusting that Navarro is wanking about this. And getting back to the whole gun thing, it's just ridiculous now that you don't know when some of these people are just going to go off. I mean, you got these Republicans flashing their gun around like that. I'm wondering if he even had his pants on. That guy down in Florida playing with his pistols, or his semi-automatics, and showing them off and complaining about, I can't fit this clip into this magazine into this. Well, get a Natchez catalog. You can probably order the 10-shot magazines for each and every one of those those firearms, you nitwit. I mean, it is just ridiculous that these guys are allowed to get away with this stuff, because the media should just hammer these guys on this stuff. Hammer them with how idiotic they are. I mean, I'm a firearms owner and I'm a hunter, but I don't fetishize my firearms like the way these guys do. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Are they 10? I mean, and this is their newest Tinker toy. I mean, and I guess that's an old reference for some people, but
I believe the proper term is ammosexuals.
Good one.
Appreciate your call, Mark. Have a wonderful weekend. Come back. More of the Devil's Advocates, your Friday grievances. You can air them right here at 844-967-2789.
Now, who's responsible for this unwarranted attack on my person?
Business ethics.
It is absolutely 150% your fault. Yeah, that's a joke, son. Don't you get it?
I wonder who that is, honey.
Hugs with family.
Grandma and Grandpa's here.
Get over here.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
I miss you so much, Grandpa.
Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates.
Matt from Mount World. Welcome, Matt. What do you got for us?
I don't get these people, man. All these teachers are groomers and pedophiles. We need them armed to the teeth. It's the only way.
Right.
I mean, is your name Jeffrey Lebowski? Because your mind is limber.
Oh,
appreciate you listening.
That's a great point, though. Yes, the teachers, they're the ones doing the indoctrination, right? The teachers are the ones that are woke. Give them guns.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Morning, Mama. How you feeling?
Great. And I'm ready for you today.
I'm checking in on you. Morning meditation?
Check.
Dressed and ready to work out?
Check.
Check your blood pressure yet?
And check.
Boom. Great job, Mom. And about those gold earrings?
No, ma'am.
Now more than ever, it's important that we protect our hearts and the hearts of those we love. Monitor your blood pressure daily and help each other stay motivated. Rally your squad to take the online pledge at releasethepressure.org. Brought to you by the Release the Pressure Coalition and the Ad Council.
Well, all right, you squares, it's time you smoke. Fire up this funk and let's have a toke.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Everybody get high.
Welcome back from the 420 break. Can you hear me now? I think you can. We'll take your calls right here, 844-967-2789. Fancy Brian, some new news, and I believe beginning next Thursday, January 9th, pardon me, let me try that again. June 9th, the January 6th committee hearings, they'll happen in prime time. They're going to happen. Special event right here on Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio and the Shaw. We're going to preempt whatever else is playing. Poor Rick, poor whoever. You're all preempted. I guess that'd be Joel Clayfish, perhaps, here in the Shaw, but you're all preempted. We're going to play the January 6th committee hearings in real time, live. And there's been differing news that's starting to escape. Jamie Raskin said, we're going to blow the roof off this mother, effectively. Something to that effect. I paraphrase slightly. But here's some of the newer news. And you talk about, Fancy Brian and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. Are you ever nervous? We make ourselves lightning rods. We're public figures of sort. We're on media. And we occasionally find ourselves disagreeing with the viewpoint of like every Trumpster. So the fact that they're sometimes armed and dangerous. Does that make us concerned for our safety? And Brian said, yeah, maybe a little. And I, in a foolhardy fashion, said, I'll talk my way out of it. But the Secret Service were alerted that Mike Pence was in danger from the president the day before the January 6th. I mean, it's pretty bad when the vice president, the Secret Service, is being warned, hey, the boss might try to have this guy offed. That's new news. Did you know that?
Wow.
Now, we knew that there was talk that, Trump was sort of supportive of the whole notion of hang Mike Pence.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like, oh, you want to kill him? That's fine. That's cool.
If he dies, he dies.
I thought it was, I didn't think it was as direct as.
You're going to be dead.
According to a report from New York Times, Maggie Haberman, former Vice President Mike Pence, Chief of Staff, sat down with the head of the VP Secret Service detail on the day before January 6th insurrection to warn them that his boss's life might be in danger. Yeah, kind of. The report states that Mark Short explained the president was going to turn publicly against the vice president. There could be a security risk to Mr. Pence because of it. Hang Mike Pence.
I stabbed a man in the heart.
Earlier this week, it was reported that Trump had no problems with the crowd who stormed the Capitol chanting, "Hang Mike Pence!" And the new report indicates that the former vice president and his staff were already worried about what would follow the Stop the Steal rally. According to Haberman's report, based on her upcoming book, due in October, an October surprise for Maggie Haberman, Mr. Short did not know what form of security risk might take, according to people familiar with the events. But after days of intensifying pressure from Trump on Pence to take the extraordinary step of intervening in the certification of the Electoral College count to forestall Trump's defeat, Mr. Short seemed to have good reason for concern. Yeah, probably. The vice president's refusal to go along was exploding in the open, and a bitter breach between the two men at a time when the president was stoking, I almost said stroking the fury, stroking and stoking the fury of his supporters who were streaming into Washington. Haberman adds that it's unclear what the Secret Service's Tim Geibels did with the information given to him by Short. Again, a quote here. New details from the weeks leading up to January 6th helped to flesh out how Trump and his allies sought to intimidate Pence into accepting their baseless theory that the VP had the authority to block congressional certification of the Electoral College results, and how Mr. Pence's refusal to do so would lead to peril like his. A few weeks after the election on November 3rd, 2020, aides to Pence learned that some in Trump's loose network, they're a loose network of advisors, were discussing the possibility of January 6, 2021, set under statute as the day of the Electoral College certification as a potentially critical date in Trump's effort to stay in power. Haberman reports that neither a spokesperson for the Secret Service or anyone representing Pence responded when asked to comment on the report. But what we learned, it's a little while ago, Mike Pence was taken from the Senate chambers, and his brother was there, and we thought there was a body double. We had seen it in real time, two white Mike Pence looking guys. I guess it was Mike and Greg Pence. But he was taken down to where a car was awaiting for him. And Mike Pence refused to get in the car. The reporting said he said something to the effect, "I'm not getting in that car." Now, we also have heard other reporting, and this might all come together next Thursday. When they do the January 6th committee hearings and we play them out live on the radio. But the Proud Boys and different militia groups, Oath Keepers, I believe as well, that was their rendezvous point, the very point that Mike Pence came out of the Capitol, had a car awaiting for him that he refused to get in. And apparently soon thereafter, there's Oath Keepers and Proud Boys rendezvousing at the very exit depot. And Pence stayed on site. It wasn't just his brother. It was his wife. It was his kids. And yet somehow Mike Pence, with the walls coming down, with them chanting in the Capitol building, "Hang Mike Pence," with the boss back at the White House cheering for it. Mike Pence felt more comfortable hiding in some secured bunker off the loading docks than he felt getting in the car with the Secret Service. So, I'm looking forward to this summer blockbuster of a January 6th committee hearing. I have high expectations. I hope they're met. Come back with us, always exceeding your expectations with radio greatness. Join us, be part of the party. 844-967-2789.
They like to knife them and cut them and let them die slowly because that way it's more painful and they enjoy watching that much more. These are animals.
Well, you're at it. Why don't you give me a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice on it?
I'm proud to tell you that was actually my sick idea. All I want to do is be able to watch.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on a box.
I'm U.S. Senate candidate Peter Pekarsky, and I approve this ad paid for by Pekarsky for Wisconsin. The U.S. Senate primary is a marathon, not a sprint. The people choose the candidate, not the talking heads. Some have decided this race is between career politicians and centimillionaires. But this race is about choosing the person best prepared to represent all the people. That's me, Peter Pekarsky. I have the education and experience no other candidate has to handle the issues we face. Check out my website at pekarskyforwisconsin.com and tell us what you think.
Listen to your favorite political talkers no matter where you are. 92.7 FM in Madison and Eastern Dane County, 1580 AM Columbus, north of Madison, and for daytime east-west commutes on I-94, 101 FM in the Shaw, and 540 AM covering eastern Wisconsin all day and covering the Milwaukee Metro, the Wild Counties, Racine, and Kenosha 24/7. Download the free Devil Radio app for your smartphone and take both stations with you everywhere. No excuses, just listen.
Lightning Round. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. For the first time in its history, the 2022 Scripps Howard National Spelling Bee was won in a lightning round.
Ornithorhynchus.
ORNITHORHYNCHUS.
Neandabai.
NANDUBAY.
Moorhen.
MOORHEN.
14-year-old 8th grader Harini Logan of San Antonio, correctly spelling 22 words in the 92nd round to defeat Vikram Raja for the crown. Axon, a company that sells drones and police body cameras, says it's working on a drone armed with a taser to help prevent the next Uvalde, Sandy Hook, or Columbine. But last year, when the company first thought of the idea, members of its own artificial intelligence ethics board were concerned about weaponizing drones in over-policed communities of color. Today, founder and CEO Rick Smith pushed the plan into the public forum. One ethics board member calls it crackpot. I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Sam Butson with your headlines. This week, Governor Tony Evers announced the state of Wisconsin will award a record $125 million in grants this year for improved access to high-speed internet access for residents and businesses throughout the state. The Evers administration is providing an additional $25 million, along with the $100 million the administration had announced earlier this year due to demand from applicants for the fund. Yesterday, Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul issued an opinion that the UW hospital can enter into a union contract with its employees voluntarily under state law. UW Hospital Management has repeatedly stated it cannot recognize a nurses union due to Wisconsin law. According to new reports from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation and the Midwest Independent System Operator, Wisconsin and the Midwest region may be subject to potentially dangerous rolling blackouts this summer due to growing energy demands and hotter weather. You're listening to Double Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the happy hour. It's going to get happier up in here. We've got former U.S. Attorney James Santelle joining at the 5 o'clock. And I am heading to the big, what do they call it, Friday Night Live right here in Waukesha, Wisconsin. We're going to broadcast it out tonight, the inaugural broadcast. Never tried this before. We're going to try it tonight. We're going to do it live. So I'm going to sneak away late in the show, and Jim's going to take over for me. And have no fear, James Santelle, a trained professional. And Jim is going to launch his own fine show right here on the Devil Radio Shaw Network.
On WAUK 540 AM and 101 FM, The Shaw.
Well, and we're also going to play it out in Madison.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For surezies. So Jim Santelle is going to morning cannolis with Jim Santelle.
Yeah.
He picked it himself, Take the cannolis, leave the gun. So you see where his inspiration came from. Jim will be along soon. Your calls could be next, 844-967-2789. But poor stoner Jess out there driving the streets of Milwaukee, if you're sick of hearing about Donald Trump now, wait till next week. Now, the January 6th committee hearing, as I pointed out, I'm gleefully looking forward to this primetime extravaganza, hopefully made for radio event, be made for our fine stations. We're going to play it out. But you don't think that Trump's going to sit idly by and allow this to happen without doing some, let's just call it counter programming. He is the ratings machine. So apparently he's going to get together with a number of his loose associates. Now,
loose associates. That sounds great.
Yes, that's how they were described. The loose associates. Our friend Jeff messaged us. Did you say Trump's loose network or Trump's noose network? Yeah, a little punny. I get it. But anyways, let me read a little bit from Greg Sargent at the Washington Post. I might throw some commentary in as well for good measure. Now that the House committee examining the January 6th insurrection has announced the first of 6 hearings set to begin next week, former President Donald Trump and his allies, his buddies, his bros, are gearing up for a major media push and response. Axios describes this as counter-programming of the committee's presentation. That's a polite way to say that Trump's propagandists will flood the media zone with rancid gush of disinformation and lies designed to dupe GOP voters into seeing themselves as the hearing victims and to pollute the information environment. So the media activist, its worst both sides instincts. The stench of the grift is strong here. Per Axios, GOP leaders and conservative groups will coordinate their mighty messaging across many right-wing media platforms to delegitimize the hearings. That sounds formidable, but the ruse is to project swagger at a time when the Democrats will command the national spotlight with a powerful tale of Trumpian violence and treachery. Yet the effort does point to a big challenge Democrats face with these hearings. It shows that large swaths of the GOP and conservative establishment have fundamentally invested in a full-blown denial that Trump's effort, the effort to destroy our constitutional order, requires any serious national reckoning. Why respond? It's just some tourists and such. Good people. They're patriots.
On many sides.
On many sides. That in turn could make a meaningful breakthrough harder for these hearings to achieve. I'm looking for a big old breakthrough, a Top Gun Maverick summer blockbuster kind of breakthrough. Think back over the storied congressional hearings in modern times, and you'll generally recall some kind of big moment that grabbed attention across the country, demanding heightened recognition and introspection. There's the have you no sense of decency moment during the 1954. That was a long time ago. During the 1954 hearing that led to Senator Joe McCarthy's demise. Wisconsin's own or White House official Alexander Butterfield's revelations about Nixon's secret taping system during the 73 Watergate hearings, or Rep. Henry Waxman extraordinarily grilling the nation's leading tobacco executives in 1994. The January 6 hearings may struggle to achieve a moment quite like those. First, many of the highest profile players in the insurrection effort will probably refuse to testify. See our buddy Peter Navarro. This includes Trump, his vice president, Mike Pence, who was pressured to execute Trump's scheme, and other top co-conspirators such as Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and former advisor Stephen K. Bannon. Here's a quote. Every hearing that had enormous impact hinged on the witnesses. Congressional scholar Norman Ornstein tells the author of this piece, Greg Sargent. The question is whether the January 6th hearing produced a big moment without the biggest players under the spotlight. And what's more, as Bloomberg's Jonathan Bernstein explains, it took hearings like those on Watergate months to break through. The January 6th committee is planning 6 hearings. Even if that's understandable given our political calendar, it also seems to reflect a recognition. The public is a very different place than it was during the Watergate era. That doesn't mean the January 6th hearings will fail to capture attention. Rather, it means committee members will need to conduct them in a manner that fundamentally is different than those previous hearings. In some ways, this is doable. The January 6 hearings are about an unprecedented effort to subvert the peaceful transfer of power with appalling levels of corruption and mob violence. Did you catch all that? It's kind of a compelling lead, don't you think? That might capture the country's attention. Maybe. It involves numerous deaths and scenes of extraordinary violence and brutality perpetrated by white supremacists, white nationalists, and other assorted ugly characters. And I'm sure many good people. In a sense, the hearings will produce some searing primetime drama. We may see new footage of horrors of violence, emotional testimony from wounded Capitol Police, powerful expert discussion of the outside threat posed by violent domestic extremists, and so forth. We also may see new information and a useful primer on the hearings, just security and protect democracy, lay out revelations to watch for. So what should we watch for? New evidence that Trump was involved in the scheme to manufacture fraudulent electors. Now I'm going to stop right there for a minute. We've talked about the 10 fraudulent electors here in the state of Wisconsin. That scheme, the John Eastman scheme hatched up. Well, Trump condoned the scheme, probably, and I think there will be testimony presented next Thursday night, right here on the radio in prime time, of just that. And also, Trump world knew the fraud pretext for subverting the election was freaking bogus. They knew the big lie was a big lie when they were telling it, and that Trump weaponized the mob in real time to complete the procedural coup. The two prongs, the procedural coup and the insurrectionist, bastardist coup. But is there a way to produce something like a serious bipartisan recognition that an extraordinary crime was committed against the country, one that requires meaningful reconciliation and reform? Question mark? It seems unlikely. The Bulwark's William Crystal and New York Magazine's Jonathan Chait both posit that a fundamental shift is taking place within the Republican Party and conservative establishments. This shift means that new reigning orthodoxies are taking hold at the highest levels and dictating that the insurrection attempt simply did not amount to a serious offense against the country. That's the propagandist anti-narrative, right? That's what we're going to hear next week, over and over and over again. If you turn on Fox News, if you turn on right-wing talk radio, this is all a partisan effort. This is just the Dems looking for stuff to relitigate. Never mind the fact that their Cheeto Messiah wants to keep relitigating every election, especially the one he lost. But back to Greg Sargent here. Try to bring this to conclusion. I digress. No guy who talks in tangents occasionally.
I do it on purpose.
I do it, just because. The shift also means new institutions are developing in the GOP. I think I mentioned that. No, I didn't. Didn't know if I was being redundant. Sometimes I've read ahead and sometimes I haven't. The shift also means new institutions are developing in the GOP and on the right that are expressly organized to promote a more militant refusal to accept election losses in the future. As Shade notes, we're witnessing the institutionalization of an insurrectionary movement. Didn't know I'd have to learn that word. Insurrectionary movement.
V is very insurrectionary.
Something like that. Now, Fancy Brian, all this may sound very dramatic, but it cannot be dismissed, given that a large swath of the party will respond to the J6 hearings with full-fledged propaganda effort to bury a serious political crime against the country and to substitute a news story in which the true victims related to January 6th are Donald Trump and his supporters. That'll be the counter narrative. You wait for it. It's coming. Start Monday. And that makes a serious bipartisan breakthrough moment seem a whole lot less likely, according to Greg Sargent at the Washington Post. 844-967-2789. What do you say, Dick from Madison?
Well, I say let Navarro keep talking. I got to see a little bit of his posts coming out from the court, That was pretty interesting. He says that because Nancy Pelosi said that this was unprecedented, this committee, that basically she was down with not doing it. Where did that come from? She never said that. And at a point where he was just blubbering on about buying his book on Amazon and this and that and the other thing, the best part of the whole interview or whatever it was, his little, media thing after he came out of the courthouse, was John Heilman was filling in this afternoon on Dateline White House, and he goes,
I love him from the circus.
Yeah.
He's
Normally we don't break in on breaking news, but he let him go and blah, blah, blah for a while. And then he goes, but when it becomes just nothing more than this kind of right-wing gibberish, we're going to move on.
I met John Heilman.
Hooray for John.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy.
And he's a Wisconsin cat. He's from Wisconsin originally.
Yep. So's a guy from Axio.
Dick, you got any other thoughts, brother?
No, that's
fine.
That's
Badger to another.
It just took way too long to get to this point. And you know what's going to happen next week. They're just going to get down in the trenches and go, no, none of this happened, and it didn't happen that way. And, Navarro looked like a complete fool outside that courthouse. It was total gibberish.
Well, Navarro, as they say, Dick, and I appreciate you listening, my friend. What they say, a lawyer that represents himself has a fool for a client. What about an economist that plays lawyer and represents himself? What's he have for a client?
Someone who can put together a bill really well.
A Green Bay sweep. We've got some January 6th updates on Rudy Giuliani as well. Rudy's been out of the headlines for a couple of weeks.
I was worried about him.
You shouldn't be. He's still dyeing his hair, still bleeding hair dye, still saying outrageous things, I suspect. But, we'll report more of them to you, and we'll give you every opportunity to air the grievances. I got a fine co-devil coming along for the happy hour. He's James Santelle, but you could be the co-devil next. Dial us up, 844-967-2789. And a little bit later, Crute's going to Friday Night Live in the Shaw. If you are in the greater Waukesha area, come down to the live music, the party, the broadcast, and I'm giving away radios, man. We're in the radio business. You want a free radio? Come see me. I just got to know how to award your radio to you, when you win. So come on back. More Devils. Phones are next.
You got me in a shroud.
They call me the ratings machine.
You're all gonna die!
I'm proud to tell you that was actually my sick idea.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Aaron Mustovsky, who rioted at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, was dressed as Captain Caveman. QAnon shaman meets Law and Order.
Right. I mean, he pulled it off a whole lot better than Aaron Mustovsky.
Well, let me read a quote from the judge in this case. I hope you'll leave some of this fantasy world behind. Mustovsky was sentenced to 8 months in prison.
Looking at the guy, he might be one who loses his mattress on the first day.
Breaking news. Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I'm happy because it's a Friday. We air the grievances up around here at 844-967-2789. James Santelle, fine former U.S. attorney, friend of mine, joining me in the studios next. But your calls, they're right now, beginning with Annie from Watertown. How you doing, Annie?
Oh, been better.
What's wrong?
I wasn't going to bring up guns, but the thing is, they kept saying how, those liberals are so angry, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're not, they want to take away all everybody's guns. Well, okay, it's pushed me far enough. I'm angry, and I'm fine with this. Everybody getting their guns taken away, just fine. Just make them disappear, twinkle my nose and make them all go away.
Well, there's more guns than humans, Annie. That'd be a hell of a hill to climb to get rid of all the guns in America.
That's why it would probably take magic to do it. But, I saw a string of photos that are posted by people in their guns, and they're laying out all their arrays. The commentators, these guns, they sat down and figured it out, and they had at least $100,000, if not $200,000 worth of guns there, and it looked like their house was, lucky to be worth $100,000. And these people also spent $2,500 a month on ammunition. It's like, what is wrong with these people?
Well, you can't short yourself on ammunition, Annie. You never know when the apocalypse is coming.
Yeah, the Christmas cards and that kind of stuff, putting it in, I think it's bizarre. I can only think of listening quite a while ago, listening to you interview that gun guy, Clark or something, and you're asking him, you have your gun here. I thought, I hope my kids don't go to anybody's house with somebody like that, you know, and saying, well, do you keep it locked up? Then no, you know, and then I'm thinking, well, what does he do? Walk around with it on his hip all the time? And yes, that's what he said. He's like, yeah. I mean, there's dad washing dishes with the gun on his hip, you know. I mean, I thought, how much more bizarre can it get, huh? And then I see all these pictures.
He is not going to pre-rinse those dishes, Annie. He'll be damned before he does.
Oh, yeah. So that's the grievance if you want to do the guns. I was thinking on the news how instead of just the news guy giving the, Joe Biden announcing the economic numbers and everything like that, why do they have to then add in a second side of somebody saying, oh, the consumers are concerned about the gas prices? You know, it's like, wait a minute. Isn't this just news? Just tell the news about the economic thing. Why bother with, some people say the opposite is good.
Yeah, it's sort of a
world.
You learn that from watching Fox News, Annie. You know, they often say the most horrible stuff with some people are saying. And Annie, if you're really bored, next Sunday, June 12th, about 1:00, Crute will be on Fox News. And I'm going on Fox News after the January 6th hearings, probably not to talk about the January 6th. You know, they're going to be avoiding that topic on Fox News, but I promise, Brian, I will bring it up if they don't. I promise. This time, I mean it.
Did you guys hear about those hearings? I'm sorry. You're asking me about my earrings or about the January 6th hearings? I don't know. There's a feed here is a little bit different.
Law and order. Let's talk about the criminals of the January 6th, starting with the former president, and see how I can sort of sneak it into everyday conversation.
Oh, did you say Joe Biden was zany or you liked Liz Cheney? We should talk about Liz Cheney.
Not today. Get a little bit of sound of Joe Biden. Let's play a little sound of the president before my fine guest joins, James Santelle. If we could, Fancy Brian, I'm going to start at cut 17. Joe Biden, there's a new jobs report out today. I think 391,000 new jobs. That's pretty good. It's not a blockbuster, but still pretty damn good. 17.
We aren't likely to see the kind of blockbuster job reports month after month like we had over this past year. But that's a good thing. That's a sign of a healthy economy with steady growth.
And if you believe our president, I'd like to, the economic foundations, they're solid. Cut 18.
With record jobs, new record small businesses, and wages rising. It's the foundation for an economy that works for working families.
Building a solid foundation. More from President Joe Biden, a position of strength. When you keep adding jobs, you're strong.
There's no denying that high prices, particularly around gasoline and food, are a real problem for people. But there's every reason for the American people to feel confident that we'll meet these challenges. Because of the enormous progress we've made on the economy, the Americans can tackle inflation from a position of strength.
Position of strength. Well, I'd like to think that as well. Again, Joe Biden would describe this as a robust recovery. Play it for the people. Cut 20, please.
America's achieved the most robust recovery in modern history, just 2 years removed from the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression.
More from Biden, cut number 21, I believe. Americans do remain anxious, though.
I know that even with today's good news, a lot of Americans remain anxious, and I understand the feeling.
They probably are letting you know, aren't they, Joe? They are, putting efforts into lowering costs. Cut 22, Biden tells or talks about the efforts. Cut 22, please.
If food and gas prices are going to be elevated by Putin's price hike, one way we can make things a little better for families is by helping them save on other basic items their family needs on a monthly basis, like their utility bills, their internet bills, their prescription drug bills.
Fancy Brian's porn bill. I mean, there's lots of bills out there.
That comes with it. It's just included.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. More from
they had great packages.
More from the president discussing inflation and the fact that he'll work with frickin' anybody. Cut 23.
And I'll work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, to deliver real solutions on real savings for the American people, not take money out of their pockets.
Fancy, we got time for 24. Keep playing it.
It's been a constant interchange.
Gun reform.
And I've been constantly briefed. I will do what I can to try to see if we have some real progress.
One more question. Elon Musk critical of Biden on the economy. Here was his response. President Biden cut 30.
You say Elon Musk about his feeling about the economy. Jamie Dimon has said similar things.
Well, let me tell you, while Elon Musk is talking about that, Ford is increasing their investment overwhelmingly. I think Ford is increasing the investment in building new electric vehicles, 6,000 new employees, union employees, I might add, in the Midwest. The former Chrysler Corporation, Stellantis, they are also making similar investments in electric vehicles. Intel is adding 20,000 new jobs for making computer chips. Lots of luck on this trip to the moon. I mean,
To the moon with you, Elon. Back for the happier happy hour, and James Santelle with the rest of you.
Oh my God, we're burning alive.
I know you got to be frustrated. I can.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Over the past 30 years, Chad's Design Build has grown and improved how we do things, but we've never lost sight of our commitment to be a great place to work, focused on quality renovations for outstanding clients. Paying a living wage and providing excellent benefits to promote work-life balance does in fact attract outstanding people, which helps to explain our stellar reputation. Thank you, Madison, for 30 amazing years, building a better world one remodeled home at a time. This is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
I'm Tim McGuire. Former President Donald Trump's top trade official, Peter Navarro, was arrested after being indicted on contempt charges for defying a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. During an initial court appearance today, Navarro claimed the Justice Department had committed prosecutorial misconduct, and he was told he could not contact anyone after he was approached by an FBI agent at an airport and put in handcuffs while trying to board a flight to Nashville, Tennessee, for a television appearance. During today's hearing, Navarro called the committee a sham committee, and prosecutors were playing hardball and were despicable. The indictment follows his court filing in which he said he also had been subpoenaed to appear before a grand jury as part of the Justice Department's investigation of the Capitol attack. 100 days into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin's government seems increasingly unlikely to give up parts of Ukraine taken in the attack. President Biden was asked if Ukraine should get up trying to get back its own land.
From the beginning, I've said, and not everyone's agreed with me, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. It's their territory. I'm not going to tell them what they should and shouldn't do.
President Volodymyr Zelensky says they have defended Ukraine for 100 days already, and victory will be theirs. The Labor Department releases yet another positive jobs report, 390,000 jobs added in May. PNC Chief Economist Gus Fauché says that's just about right.
We've been seeing job growth of around 400,000 per month so far in 2022. That's slower than what we had in 2021, but given the tightness of the labor market, that's to be expected. And in fact, the Federal Reserve would like to see job growth slow a bit more to help bring inflation under control.
Unemployment rate, 3.6%, remains just above a 50-year low. Stocks fell for the day and the week. The Dow down 348. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, You're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
Hey, this is Rocker, and June is Pride Month. To celebrate, the Dark Horse is featuring the Pride Rocks cocktail. It's Rocker vodka, Edinburgh rhubarb ginger liqueur, lemon, lavender extract, and it's yummy. A portion of the proceeds will benefit Fair Wisconsin, and you can find the Pride Rocks cocktail in June at the Dark Horse and Sal's Tomato Pies on Livingston and in Sun Prairie. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Summer is now, and it's not too late to make your backyard an oasis. Go Landscaping can create a sanctuary from the world right in your backyard. Stone fireplaces, stone patio, outdoor kitchens, stone is their passion. Hardworking and professional, call Cody. Their dry stone certified mason will help you design and realize your dream this summer. Call Gold Landscaping today at 608-807-9245. Stop dreaming and go love your yard.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Viva la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Thursday, former President Donald Trump weighed into the Wisconsin Republican gubernatorial primary, one day after the state's filing deadline to endorse construction businessman Tim Michels in the race. Michels is the most recent candidate to enter the four-way primary, and the endorsement from the former president is likely to shake up the race that former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch has been leading in the polling to date. Yesterday afternoon, at least 2 people were shot while attending a funeral at Graceland Cemetery in Racine for a man who was killed by a Racine police officer last month. Racine Mayor Corey Mason called for the violence to stop. A citywide curfew in Racine is being implemented for all residents under the age of 18. Sunshine in the forecast today with winds from 10 to 20 miles per hour and a high of 72 degrees. Mainly clear skies expected this evening with a slight chance for rain and an overnight low of 50 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling into the happier Friday 5 o'clock happy hour, and I'm happy to have been joined by a fine guest and a friend and a brand new host right here on the Shaw 540 AM 101 FM and of course Devil Radio. He's former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. Jim, welcome to your new studio, sir.
Glad to be with you. It is Friday. I've got my days right this time.
It's a glorious Friday.
Beautiful, glorious Friday afternoon. Delighted to be with you and Brian and the entire group here.
Well, we got you working overtime this week.
This is a good thing. It's a good thing. Work is a good thing also, right? For America, for everybody. And looking forward to this afternoon and also to tomorrow morning as well.
Well, Jim, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock Central Time will be the launch, the inauguration of Morning Cannolis with James Santelle.
That's exactly it. So
I like what you've decided.
I think it was a collaborative effort to come up with the name. The production people, the promotion people did a good job.
Have you heard your show open?
I have not. So I'm going to be surprised when Brian does this, and looking forward to it. We can certainly do that if we've got the opportunity here today, but I'm all into excitement and surprise as well.
Well, we can, make the audience wait till tomorrow morning, although I'm sure they'll tune in for the fine broadcast. Fancy Brian, do we have the capability?
Yeah, give me just a moment here.
Okay,
grab it here.
Looking forward to it. 9 a.m. tomorrow until 11 o'clock, and lots of good things going on as always.
What's the lead, counselor?
So the lead is going to be sort of a summary of significant things during the week, and then we're going to spend the second hour going into a little deeper dive on one of those issues. Unfortunately, this week it's got to be about guns, and specifically what the Supreme Court's going to be doing not too soon, probably a few weeks or so, when it comes to the capacity of Americans constitutionally to carry guns beyond their homes. So it's a case out of New York called Bruin, and every indication that our Supreme Court is going to tell you, Mike and everybody else, you've got a constitutional right to carry weapons without any government oversight, any government authority to carry a weapon down the streets of beautiful Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Jim, at first I thought you were being evasive, and then I was going to ask for permission to treat you like a hostile witness, but you got around to it. So there's going to be talk about guns. It has dominated the headlines, but for the eager, for the anticipatory, for a little tease, tomorrow morning, Jim Santelle, tune in right here on the Shaw at 9 o'clock. And it's also going to play out on Devil Radio 92.7 and TTN 1580 AM. But here's what the show open's going to sound like. Listen closely, Mr. Santelle.
Welcome. Grab your favorite morning beverage and join us for Morning Cannolis with Jim Santelle. Sampling the news desserts of the week, here is your host, Jim Santelle.
And he's right here with me in the Shaw Studios. So, little Doobie Brothers.
Little Doobie Brothers, little Mike McDonald. Could it be any better? Brian, thank you for that. Mike, thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to it with great delight.
My favorite morning beverage, Irish coffee.
Right, it is. And I think our favorite afternoon dessert, morning dessert, is cannolis. So the tradition continues, very much suggested by you, but a wonderful opportunity, and looking forward to call-ins also. Lots of people hopefully tuning in and asking questions, making comments, as we always do, about topical things in the news.
There are some eager listeners. People have been asking for the time. Again, 9 to 11, a 2-hour inauguration. And I'm going to be at the farmers market tomorrow morning. Don Brown's going to do his fine show this week in Waukesha at 8 o'clock from the farmers market. And I'm going to be there all morning giving away another radio. We're going to give away radios. We're in the radio business.
It's a good thing. Why not?
You need a radio. So many people, if I'm outside the car, what I realized, Jim, I don't have I used to have 4 radios in the house. I don't have a single portable boomboxy kind of anything.
Right. I think with dials on it where you can volume and change
tuner
the
to
frequency
540 AM,
right,
or tuner
right.
to 101 FM, something like that.
We just don't have those around anymore. I remember my father's radio in the garage with the Milwaukee Braves on when I was growing up. That was my sense of radio. I'm absolutely. That was my sense of radio, and it was the source of great entertainment growing up. Should still be.
My Crute's first radio, a Spider-Man head radio I got for opening a savings account at the Sun Prairie Bank. And I also got to meet one of my childhood heroes, a local guy from Madison, Andy North, US Open winner. I was a golf kit.
It was a golf kit and also a radio. They gave out lamps. Remember that? Banks would give out lamps when you opened up a savings or a checking
You probably
account.
opened more bank accounts than I did. I mostly closed bank accounts, Jim.
That may or may not have been the case, but good times, and still good times in 2022 and beyond.
Now, Jim, you're from Waukesha.
I'm from Waukesha.
This is home
for me. Absolutely. Spend a lot of time right on these streets. That's why I'm delighted to be back here once again this afternoon and on a regular basis in the future. I live in Brookfield. But for the fact that I came in from Milwaukee and facing a little bit of traffic, I would have been here even earlier, but this is home. And Waukesha County is the place where I grew up in public schools. I plainly spent most of my life growing up, not just listening to the Braves on my father's radio, but also but biking around here and being a part of the community. I've spent some time right down the street here, believe it or not, at the Waukesha Civic Theater, sometimes on stage. So this is my part of the world too. Some other discussion we can have at some point down the road. So
we're talking, Jim. What are some of your more famous roles? You shared that with our SAG actor in the other room, Fancy Brian.
I did, absolutely. So as late as last March, I was on stage there, thing called the Language Archive, all about language and the way that we use words to convince people of certain things. Relationships are built on them. A number of years ago,
mine are all built on sex. Jim.
Well, we all have our predicates, right? We all have our reasons for talking out loud.
That references back to a Dom joke yesterday, but please continue, sir.
Many years before that, was delighted to be here in Waukesha. I played, perhaps unbelievably, the caustic, racist prosecutor in a wonderful production of To Kill a Mockingbird. And still one of the most important, significant things I've ever done on the stage locally, and delightful cast, great friends, and a really compelling story. Obviously continues to this day. It's still on Broadway. It's moving around the country there, and a few other things from time to time, also right down the street here at Waukesha.
Well, if you go down south, they're still trying to ban the book, aren't they, Jim?
Absolutely. That's plainly, in many ways, the times of To Kill a Mockingbird have not disappeared in America, and we can find those venues all around. So important stories of that kind. Great believer in language and talking, as we are doing right now, and having good conversation, even with people who may not agree with us, but also sometimes telling stories, as you do, as Brian does, as Dom does, everybody does.
We tell some stories around here. Mostly fish stories.
And fish stories are good too, because they all convey something about who we are as people, individuals, what our community is all about, and can make us think, right? Even if we see something on stage, hear something on the radio that offends us, that makes us question whether or not what we think is true, that's a good thing. And we should always be sort of on the edge, if you will, thinking about whether everything we believe is true.
Oh, you're so polite, Jim. No, I offend people. You are often polite. My fine guest, James Santelle, he is a host in his own regard. The inaugural Morning Cannolis with James Santelle tomorrow, 9 a.m. right here on the Shaw and Devil Radio. And Jim, I got to ask you, Peter Navarro, yes, the economist, has got his PhD in economics.
A trade guy, right?
And he's been subpoenaed recently, and apparently he was indicted and arrested and arraigned today, and complained mightily about being put in cuffs, being thrown in jail. And the interesting thing, at least reportedly, the judge told him, do not act as your own counsel. And, I'm thinking, he's in government, he's a lawyer. But then I read later in the reporting, Jim, he's not a lawyer. He's an economist. And he also filed his own federal lawsuit seeking to block the J6 subpoenas.
Absolutely. Right.
Well, I've dabbled a little bit in, Monday morning quarterbacking, but I've never filed a federal lawsuit. Jim, I would know better. I'd hire a capable counsel like you, sir.
Well, and absolutely, the judge is very right to admonish him, or at least encourage him to get an attorney who knows what she or he is doing. It is a significant part of our.
What's Rudy doing these days?
Right, he still has his license in many places, so you can still possibly give him a call as well. You can go into court civilly and represent yourself without being an attorney. God bless America, right? That's part of our national fabric. You can also represent yourself if you're a criminal defendant, as he now is, based upon this indictment coming out of the grand jury in Washington, D.C. Just yesterday. Is it a wise thing to do? It is very unwise to do for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is you need that separation. You need somebody to sit you down from time to time and say, let's talk strategically, wisely about what is best in your best interests. You just can't do that when you are the very person whose interests are at stake. And I think all my good defense friends would tell you the same thing, not because they want the work, but because it's just a very, frankly, stupid thing to do.
Yeah. I have spent lots of money and gotten lots of great advice that's often gone unheeded. My fine guest, James Santelle, here in the Shaw. He'll launch his big program tomorrow at 9. Hope you tune in for it. And I'm going to sneak off to the Friday Night Live in just a little while, Jim. And you're going to give me a little cover fire, a little early preview of the type of show you might do tomorrow morning. But I got to ask you, as we sneak off to a break here, Jim, did you take encouragement from the DOJ's indictment of Navarro? Now, the charge contempt of court, it's a misdemeanor, 2 counts, 2 years in jail. I mean, that's a serious threat. The man's in his 70s. He's the guy referencing his age. But do you think this will move the needle? Do you think suddenly Peter Navarro's feeling all kinds of heat to cooperate?
The answer is yes. And plainly, this also sends a message to those other people who might be out there thinking, as perhaps the Bannon situation also indicated, should be thinking long and hard about the prospects of not appearing, not showing up. You may be finding yourself in the receiving end of a federal grand jury indictment. It does move the needle, absolutely.
Now, that's not the coach in there. That's the producer. If he starts giving you the bun sign, that means you got a break. Come back with us. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. My fine guest and co-devil, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney and host in his own regard. Come right back.
I don't like your attitude.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm just a caveman.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
My senator and yours, Ron Johnson. See a big story about him at the Hill this week in Hill.com. Wisconsin Democrats and Republicans both want Ron to run, but for different reasons. I think some Democrats think, oh, he's just so crazy. Of course we'll beat him, which is what they said about Trump too. Miss that guy? Not much. Not much. He used to come around.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you got to be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. You made it to the weekend, folks. It's nearly here. I got a fine guest in studio in the Shaw. He's James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. He is going to host a brand new show, Morning Cannolis with James Santelle, Saturday mornings right here. And in case you miss it, got something going on Saturday. We're going to replay it on Sunday mornings at the very same time, 9 o'clock. Make a note of it. Tune in for it. Jim, we've already talked about the fact that, you know, after you were a little evasive, you got to the point and you told us you're going to talk about guns and some rulings coming down from the U.S. Supreme Court. But, Jim, all of my attention next week is going to be on the January 6th committee hearing, and it's going to start on Thursday in prime time. And Jim, I know I'm quite hopeful. I had high expectations for Mueller's public testimony. I had high expectations for the impeachment And I've been let down a couple times, but Jim, I'm looking for a summer blockbuster. Will this be the one?
Right, and the fact that they've found some time in prime time is significant. It means that obviously they recognize too that there does have to be, without being inappropriate here, there's got to be some theater here. They've got to attract you. They've got to attract me. They've got to keep the American public attentive. And so I am very hopeful by that simple fact that there are people on Capitol Hill, not necessarily our electeds, but the staff behind them, who are doing an awful lot of work right now to ensure that that initial presentation, that program that is going to happen in prime time next week, is, if not a capital B blockbuster, pretty darn close. They plainly need to tell, maybe not the entire story, but need to do the big arc to make certain that people don't get lost in the minutia. This can't be specifics about, a specific door that's opened or a singular phone call, unless those phone calls are from the president and communications of a real significant level that indicate that there are people in the White House, including the president.
Find me 11,780 votes. Do you think we'll hear a phone call of that sort?
That kind of conversation. Every reason to believe that this committee, the chair has already indicated there are going to be some surprises. So he knows a little bit of producing about theater on this, that there are going to be some revelations about things that they know. They have talked to hundreds and hundreds of people, not all of them subpoenaed, many of them voluntarily, some of them staff of people in Congress, others in the White House who were there for these conversations. Every reason to believe that they're going to pick and choose some of the most important and compelling of those, maybe even get some of those witnesses to talk about what they heard. They were quite literally, to steal from Hamilton, they were in the room when it happened, right? And so those are the kinds of people we need to see next Thursday night. And there are going to be other times in the following days and weeks during the times when you and I are working, right? In the middle of the day, also attracting.
I'll still be listening.
Yeah, still be listening, right? And probably
play them on the radio for people.
There you go.
Turn them on the stream.
Exactly. And also attracting that audience and maybe filling in some of the details along the way. That's good artistry. And again, I don't mean to be flip about this at all. That's the kind of thing that was missing, frankly. Certainly the Mueller presentation, other things that Congress has done. This cannot be just the political charades that we sometimes see on both sides of the political aisle. This has got to be a presentation. Every reason to believe that it will be, because you don't have in this committee those people who are just shouting at each other.
The Jim Jordans.
Exactly. Right.
Perry's, etc.
Precisely. You don't have those folks. The Republican, this is a bipartisan committee. The people who are on that committee, you've got two Republicans, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who are all in on this. They recognize the significance of this. And so Benny Thompson, the chair, can turn to them and say, I'm now going to ask the congressman from Colorado, from Wyoming, rather, to interview this next witness, make some statements, perhaps. Let's have Mr. Kinzinger also do that kind of thing.
I don't want to see on day one any public witnesses. I got to tell you, I want a predictable, dynamic outcome, which may require pre-recorded materials, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
I want very little live presentation. I mean, you can pitch it to the videotape, but get out of the way. Right. The visuals, the words, they should already be on the tape, and they should be ready to play it. And it should roll out as a 2-hour presentation, and it should captivate us. And we better not even leave to use the bathroom or get popcorn.
Absolutely. The subtitles need to be there too, right? The language that's coming in, conversations on the phone while our Capitol is being attacked. And then you've got the subtitles as well, just in case somebody has not got their volume turned up high. That kind of dramatic presentation, exactly. And what does that do? Again, the Congress does not have the capacity to indict anyone, right? But this is about telling the American public what happened, not just on January 6th, but plainly what happened in advance of that. Who organized this at the highest levels? Who organized this at the medium levels? We know some of that already based upon the indictments. We saw the visual images. Remember how compelling it was during the impeachment when we saw for the first time some of those videos of things we had never seen before. I think, Mike Crute, that's what you're looking for, right? The things we maybe haven't seen, at least not in context, that's what they can do next Thursday. That will get America to tune in. And even if not everything is completely apparent, if there is enough of that, America will tune in the following days and weeks as well to do the subsequent exposition of the fill-in, if you will, for the greater story.
Jim, it is my strong gut feeling that the former president, Donald Trump, and his minions are going to be out there putting out a counter narrative in real time constantly. It's fixed, it's rigged, it's partisan. Jim, do you think that will have a blunting impact?
It will certainly be out there. We know that those plans are already underway. They've been announced publicly on social media, other places. It is anticipated that that will happen. My recommendation as a trial lawyer would be to avoid that kind of noise, that noise out there. Do what you need to do. You know it's coming. Do not play to that. Do not try to respond to that. And know that yours is the show that people are tuning in to see. When you're in trial, likewise, you're not concerned about what's going on in the steps outside of the courthouse. You're concerned about what the witnesses are doing in that courtroom, how the judge is responding, most importantly, what the jury is reacting to. They're the ones you want to play to.
Well, the show's right here. It's called The Devil's Advocates. I got to find Code Devil. He's taken the helm. He is James Santelle. He will launch his own show tomorrow morning, Morning Cannolis with Jim Santelle. It will launch at 9 o'clock, 9 to 11, Saturday, and a replay on Sunday. And I'm going live, a brand new event. We're rolling it out tonight from the Friday Night Live in Waukesha. So, Jim, I appreciate you taking over. Fancy Brian, have a great weekend. You all keep listening because I'm going to be doing live radio again in like 20 minutes.
It's all a big lie. It's a big con game.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk radio from Fitchburg to DeForest, always streaming at darnwi.com.
Dark Horse Art Bar is Madison's newest live music venue and art gallery on East Washington Avenue. Check out these upcoming events at the Dark Horse. Little Earthquakes, Saturday, June 25th. Little Earthquakes is Madison's blender mix of musical styles and local artists with far-off memories of their time smoking with Superman. Little Earthquakes, Saturday, June 25th. Dark Horse Art Bar and Gallery, 756 East Washington Avenue. Find them online at darkhorsemadison.com.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Aide arrested. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Economist Peter Navarro, former President Trump's trade advisor, arrested today on contempt charges for defying a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. He told reporters outside the courthouse in Washington, D.C.
I'm not going to answer any questions pertaining to the case because with this indictment and arrest, I can't speak specifically about legal matters.
He's the second former Trump aide to be charged with contempt of Congress. Former White House advisor Steve Bannon was indicted months ago. President Biden says he hasn't changed his views on human rights in Saudi Arabia, but he says he will meet with the Saudis if it helps reduce tensions in the region.
There is a possibility that I would be going to meet with both the Israelis and some Arab countries at the time, including, I expect, would be Saudi Arabia would be included in that if I did go.
I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
From Up North News, I'm Pat Kreitlow with headlines and commentary from our daily newsletter.
State Assembly Rep Timothy Ramthun said all the right things, parroting Donald Trump's big lie from the get-go. So lots of folks thought he was a shoo-in to get Trump's endorsement in the Republican primary for governor. But the former president went with the money on Thursday, choosing millionaire businessman Tim Michels. That's also a major body blow to former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch after getting embarrassed at the state GOP convention when delegates wouldn't endorse her either. It's now been 2 weeks since every Republican member of the state's congressional delegation voted no to an emergency bill to address the nation's baby formula crisis. Legislative Democrats are not letting folks forget about that, and we'll have their comments from a press event. And our travel writer takes us day tripping across Wisconsin, this time to Viroqua. You can see her story and much more online at upnorthnewswi.com.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
And good afternoon once again. This is Jim Santelle in the bottom half hour of the afternoon here on Devil's Advocates radio program. I'm sitting in for the next 30 minutes or so for my good friend and colleague Mike Crute, who is headed to another venue in Waukesha to do some more broadcasting tonight. Looking forward to that as well. Delighted to be with all of you and follow up to our discussion in the first half an hour of this hour. Let me go back to a couple of things I promised Mike I would chat about before he departed to the next venue, and that is this Peter Navarro indictment today. As we discussed right before the break, Peter Navarro, a former trade representative and economics guru for the Trump administration, was indicted yesterday by a federal grand jury who returned a 2-count indictment. Actually, the indictment was returned today, but plainly grand jury doing some work on this for many days in advance of today. 2 counts alleging contempt of Congress. Why 2? One of them goes to the fact that Mr. Navarro simply did not appear for a planned deposition before the committee, which hundreds of other people have already done. The second count is respect to documents. He was also asked by the committee, by virtue of its subpoena, a very legal way of asking for those documents, asked by the committee to produce those documents. He failed to do that as well. And so how have we seen this before? We've seen this before because we know that a similar thing happened with respect to a fellow named Mike Bannon, who is also a senior advisor to the president. Bannon himself indicted by a federal grand jury, the same kind of thing, simply failing to show up in front of the committee. His trial in a federal district court on those charges scheduled for next month. So some additional entertainment and some focus for America going on very, very soon. But Peter Navarro, again, today indicted, the announcement of his indictment today. Also, as Mike said before the break, actually appeared in front of a federal judge today. His arraignment, he plainly pled not guilty. Significantly, Mr. Navarro representing himself. He can do that, as we said right before the break. Why? Because he's a citizen, a resident of the United States of America. You can do that, even if you're not an attorney, although the judge encouraged him to get counsel, as we said before the break, not an especially good idea. We also know beyond that there are 2 other matters that are still pending out there, right? We know as well that the same committee has also recommended to the United States Department of Justice, to the Attorney General, 2 other people, because we know that from the announcements from the committee itself and the decisions made by the full House of Representatives. One of those referrals, likewise, for the possibility of prosecution for contempt, Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff. That matter is still pending in front of Merrick Garland in his inbox. And this fellow named Dan Scavino, who did a lot of communications for the Trump administration. Likewise, same pattern with Bannon, same pattern with Navarro, failed to appear, failed to produce documents. And so those referrals are still pending. So out of the 4, we have 2 indictments, one going to trial next month, Peter Navarro plainly going to trial at some point down the road, 2 others still pending. Now, why do I talk about all that? It sounds like it's very much in the weeds, and sort of it is, but it indicates, number one, that the committee is serious about its work, its attention to people appearing on a regular basis. We know that the committee has already taken a look and has interviewed hundreds of other people, most of whom have cooperated voluntarily, produced a lot of documents. And as Mike and I chatted in the first half hour of this hour, a lot of that's going to be the product of their work. We're going to see that next week, beginning next Thursday, the announcement from Benny Thompson, the chair, that in prime time, you can tune into this radio station as well and hear the actual presentations made live by the committee members about what their findings have been to this point, anticipating that the committee will also probably almost certainly before the fall elections issue a report of some kind summarizing all of this. But this, I would offer, maybe not an easy way to understand what this has been all about, but the first time since the interviews of those police officers way back in July of 2021, when the Capitol Police appeared, the first time the committee has once again gone public with information about what it is doing and what it has done. And so we look forward to that. Now, why do I raise all that? Why is that significant beyond just the things that the committee is doing? Well, we know as well that there are other matters going on in front of the United States Department of Justice. It's very, very easy, if you will, to confuse all of this. This coming out, plainly of Congress, a referral to the executive branch, to 9th and Constitution, which is where the Department of Justice is, and a criminal prosecution coming out of that. What is the related story that we talked about on Wednesday here on this show? And Dom and Mike were here, and we chatted about the other big news story also involving Peter Navarro. It's related. It's much related to this, but it's slightly discrete. It's slightly different from this. And what is that other story? And that is this, that Peter Navarro, a couple of days ago, in addition to continuing to appear on various cable networks and talk about his particular plight, also released the a draft, if you will, of a civil lawsuit that he was bringing against the very committee that had referred him for criminal prosecution. Following all of this, he had released that draft. And in the course of that writing that he was going to submit to and file with a federal district court, a civil action, presumably asking that the court stop the committee from doing what it's doing, in the course of that pleading, Mike Navarro made a significant revelation, the one that we've sort of been talking about for many, many weeks and months. And that revelation was that he had also been subpoenaed by a federal grand jury to talk about January 6th. Again, you might think, well, gee, isn't that exactly what the House committee did? The answer is it's different because you've got different venues, you've got different branches of government, and it confirmed, as we talked on Wednesday, that there is also a pending investigation led by the criminal division, led by Merrick Garland and others at Maine Justice, investigating independent of the House committee investigation, investigating whether there is any criminal conduct. And I would offer the fact that Peter Navarro is himself being subpoenaed to provide documents in that matter, and that much related but different matter before another grand jury. That confirms that indeed the Department of Justice is looking, as Merrick Garland said a number of weeks, if not months ago, looking at the highest levels to who was in charge of, who is making decisions about what was happening on January 6th. So once again, this is a contempt charge. He has been indicted, as has Bannon, for the same kind of thing. The U.S. Department of Justice, we think with a good amount of certainty, is also pursuing a related but different investigation about who is responsible for January 6th, not focused upon the failure to appear in front of Congress, but focused upon what happened on January 6th, before January 6th, and after January 6th. And that's why that information also coming from Peter Navarro is very significant this week. And that is why we continue to look not only to what the committee is going to be presenting next week, but to down the road, if other people at the higher levels, again, Peter Navarro is not the highest level, plainly a senior advisor to the president. He had this role as a trade advisor, an economics guy, but also undeniably, as the committee itself indicated, conversations with the president, strategy decisions with others about how to perpetuate the so-called big lie that in fact the election was stolen. It was not, as we know. What did he do to advance this theory that has electors in Wisconsin and 6 or 7 other states putting together false documents, sending those to the archives and sending those to the Congress, purporting to represent actual electoral votes? How was that going to play out in Congress, perhaps with the vice president and the certification that he presided over of the electoral votes? What do you do? All those things, all those machinations, that's what plainly the Department of Justice is now looking at. And the fact that Peter Navarro in the West Wing at that time is the subject of that grand jury subpoena, admittedly, not for his testimony, but for documents, indicates that they're looking at higher level people. And as we've talked before, those indictments that have been issued previously, hundreds of people, 400, 500 people already charged, even as late as yesterday, 2 additional people for their mere presence in the Capitol building on January 6th. You've got that tranche, that huge number of people indicted by grand juries, being tried successfully by the Department of Justice, also a lot of them pleading guilty. Then you've got this second tranche, this second level of people who are responsible for organizing them, the Proud Boys, the 3%ers, some of these other folks who may or may not have been there. And then you've got this higher level, which I would offer to you are the Peter Navarros, the people in the Wyndham Hotel, the people perhaps in the West Wing at the time who were engaged in conversations, certainly on January 6th and probably before and after that as well. What does that grand jury investigation look like? Again, not the one related to contempt, but the investigation that Peter Navarro has revealed to us now by virtue of his grand jury subpoena for these documents. What is that all about? Plainly asking for information. We know, in addition to the subpoena to Peter Navarro for his documents, that very significantly, the U.S. Department of Justice has also asked the committee for all of its transcripts. And again, once again, I know this sounds very complicated, lots of things going on here. It's all related to the same kind of thing, right? The same subject matter, but different parts of government doing different kinds of things as they're assigned constitutionally. The Department of Justice, as a part of what we now know as its investigation, presumably its criminal investigation, also asked for committee transcripts of things that they have heard, that the witnesses have provided to them during the course of its month-long investigation. Why do you do that? Well, we talked about this a little before. You don't do that simply because you're going to predicate a separate set of indictments based exclusively on those transcripts. But you do want to find out about what everybody has said. And if you are, for example, looking to confirm or deny the accuracy of somebody who's provided a statement to the FBI in your separate criminal investigation by the Department of Justice, if you're looking to verify or refute the testimony of somebody else who's already appeared before this other grand jury, and you've got these other statements that they may have made in another forum, that is not only extremely helpful, it's entirely appropriate for the U.S. Department of Justice to be looking at that and investigating that as it puts together this larger examination of who was responsible, I would offer, at the very highest levels of responsibility before, during, and after January 6th. A lot going on here, a huge amount going on here. We know as well, to add to this mix, we've talked about this before, Lisa Monaco has also confirmed that the Department of Justice is looking at another key piece of this that I mentioned already, and that is this notion that as a part of this overall plan put together by this fellow named John Eastman, some other attorneys as well, this Eastman memorandum, this notion that there's a consolidated effort, has many different aspects to it, to basically return the election, return it over, if you will, overturn the results of the election, turn this away from Congress and get it back to the states. This mechanism was in part relying upon the notion that individual electors would come forward and falsely represent that they were the true electors from, say, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and other states that were in play seriously during the last election. And they, as we know, as I said before, they sent those documents off, from my perspective, making false statements on behalf of themselves and perhaps others about what happened. And those documents are now the subject, those actions by those false electors here in Wisconsin and other places are also, we know that they're also the focus of an investigation, a federal criminal investigation by Maine Justice, that confirmed by Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States of America. We'll talk about more of that and take your calls as well after the break. More this afternoon on Devil's Advocates. Jim Santelle sitting in the last moments of the afternoon, and we'll do more of that discussion right after the break.
Here's today's STEM tip. Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
It's scary. Maybe I'm coming a little bit more over the left, but...
Well, it's not left. It's good governance, Steve.
It's good to be exposed to different ideas, and I do appreciate that you do put that out there on the airways, because a lot of times where you just get a little sound bite of this or a little bit of that, and that's the end of it. You're to be commended for that.
Dave, I'm glad you finally come around to commending the greatest radio show ever, man.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Monaco Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice hard seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, monacobrewingcompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice hard seltzer.
Right now, we all feel a little disconnected. For seniors living alone, the isolation can be overwhelming. Connect with an older loved one and have the conversation of a lifetime at StoryCorpsConnect.org/AARP. A message from AARP, StoryCorps, and the Ad Council.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
And we're back for the final moments of the afternoon. My name is Jim Santelle. I'm sitting in for these final moments for Mike Crute, who is headed off here in Waukesha to do some additional broadcasting tonight, right there among the American public, our Wisconsin public, our Waukesha public. Looking forward very much to that as well. Before we talk more about things going on locally and statewide and nationwide, we always take phone calls. And so I promised Mike, as I'm sitting in the final moments here of the afternoon hour, that we'd take at least one or two phone calls, and we'll do that. I know, CJ, you've been sitting on the phone here patiently for a long time, wanted to chat with us about a particular subject matter that you have. Why don't you go ahead, CJ, and chat with us?
Well, thanks for taking my call, James. I do call a lot, and some of my friends and family call me the truth detective for the Devil's Advocate.
So what truth do you want to share with us today, CJ?
You know, I'm interested. You're well aware of January 6th. I think it took January 6th for Democrats to care about crime, because we can look in our own state street, Kenosha that burned, and Evers did nothing. So, and, you know, I guess at this point, I really do. I wonder what will the Democrats run on? And then I have a specific question.
And that question would be what, CJ? You've got a specific question to ask about events in the public domain today.
You know,
Go ahead.
the grand jury for Sussman. You know, I wonder if it'll be tainted and have high school kids that play on sports together. But regardless, John Durham got some very interesting information that I'd love to have your input on. Robbie Mook, who said that it was tied to Hillary. She approved the plan to go ahead with false information, and she knew it, and the campaign knew about it. So I'm wondering if the Devils will cover that information with the same, I guess, I don't know if it would be biased or unbiased, that you will with January 6th theater that's going to be put on.
And why don't we talk about non-bias in either direction? We'll talk about factual accuracy, right? So who's Robbie Mook? Robbie Mook is the former campaign director for the Clinton campaign, plainly a public figure in his own right. And as your listeners know, CJ, as you know as well, the reference points here are this. Not a grand jury, but it's a trial jury, obviously, that returned a verdict of not guilty as to Michael Sussman, a grand jury that previously had indicted, based upon Department of Justice presentations from John Durham, this fellow named Michael Sussman, who was an attorney either in his own right and also plainly on behalf of Democrats and sometimes the campaign itself, but came forward to the FBI with information about the Alpha Bank and about other things related to the Trump administration. And the point of the prosecution was that during the course of his discussion with one FBI agent as a part of that investigation, the allegation in the grand jury indictment, which the trial jury rejected, the allegation was that Sussman had committed a federal felony, had made a false statement about what? About who he represented. And the allegation was that, in fact, he represented the political side of the fence, maybe the Clinton campaign, when in fact he maintained that he was there as a private citizen to offer this information about these connections between the Alpha Bank and the Trump campaign itself. We don't need to go into whether or not those specific allegations are true. History will write that down the road. What we do know in the end is that in the trial of this matter, there was testimony. Again, the trial ultimately, as I said, resulting in his acquittal. Basically, the jury, I think, saying, what are we doing here? Why is this a material false statement that should be in the federal court, prosecuted, admittedly by an agent, by an officer, by an attorney of the Department of Justice, sent Mr. Sussman the message that no, in fact, this is not a federal offense that you've committed. And so brought to a close that prosecution brought by John Durham. But along the way, Robbie Mook testifying about, again, things related to who made these decisions, if you will, for the disclosure and the decision, the approval, if you will, for information to be provided perhaps to the media about Alpha Bank, and providing some color along the way about communications between the media, among the staffers, and yes, indeed, some representation that the candidate herself was aware of the fact that the campaign was at least offering up this notion that there might be a connection here. I would offer to CJ that in the interest of non-biased review of this, if there is some criminal matter related to that particular thing, certainly the Department of Justice looks at that. They look at things without partisan view. And again, I am, having been with the department for 30 some years, politics doesn't enter into those kinds of things. You hear things about politics, and that's what this is all about. But if in fact there was a false statement made by Robbie Mook, if there was some other thing that was imputed to others based upon that testimony, we would hear about it. What we do know is what he testified to. And it is interesting grist for further conversation. I would also offer that, you know what, as a part of politics in the 21st century, this kind of thing happens all the time. It is unfortunate. I probably agree with you in many ways, CJ, that it is unfortunate that our politics have gotten to the point where we do, in fact, look for things to discredit our opposing candidate. And those things can sometimes be real, sometimes have substance to them, sometimes have some real validity that go to your credibility and your electability, and other times do not. And there's no doubt that politics at a local level, a state level, and at a federal level often partakes of that. I would offer, based upon what I have seen in the media, again, I don't know anything more than you do, CJ, and others out there, that this representation, this testimony inside the Sussman trial that Robbie Mook gave is in that nature. That is describing kind of the inside baseball, if you will, about what political campaigns, in this case, the Clinton campaign, may have done in connection with trying to articulate some other positions out there. And so, CJ, we appreciate your call. Look forward to talking with you down the road as well. Say, as we move into our final minutes here too, wanted to offer once again this invitation to all of our listeners this afternoon to join me again tomorrow morning. I'm going to be right back here in the Waukesha studio. We've got a program that's going to spend 2 hours, one of them addressing the specific kinds of news events. They're going to be legal, they're going to be government related, as CJ's question just indicated, maybe sometimes brushing on politics as well, hard to separate those things out. And then in the second hour, we're going to do a deeper dive in at least one of those, if not more of those issues. Needless to say, tomorrow we're going to be chatting an awful lot about guns, not just the things that you see in the media, but also we're going to be chatting about what the United States Supreme Court sometime in this month, maybe early next, is going to tell us in a case coming out of New York. The Supreme Court's perched to give us some additional insight into what the Second Amendment means. We're going to chat more about that. We're going to talk about a case authored by Antonin Scalia many, many years ago that gives us the predicate for that. And then take your phone calls throughout tomorrow morning. We're going to be looking forward to all of that. It's a show that hopefully will attract your interest if you have interest, and I suspect all of you do in those kinds of things. Very important, encouraging you very much to call in as CJ did today. We're going to be doing that tomorrow morning. But right now, we're going to take another break and come back and do the final minutes of the afternoon here on The Devil's Advocate.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're gonna hear about it.
Don't mess with the devil, buddy.
When we built the Devil Radio World Headquarters in Madison, it was filthy with construction dust, a real mess. I called Magnific Cleaning Services and they made it shine. A few days later, we moved in and created a whole new mess. Magnific Cleaning Services made it shine again. Now Magnific Cleaning Services is the only cleaners I trust with the keys to my company. They clean Devil Radio affordably and with great